for me, esports is just nothing more than community. The greatest esports are all coming from the community, and the community decides collectively what is actually like in trend. It's the same why streamers are blowing up, because people collectively, it's like a network effect. People come together and decide, okay, this is what I watch, and this is what I want to watch. And I think gamers are actually sophisticated enough in this age that they know what they want from games, and if they don't get it, they just move on. You can focus on just being a player, but just being a player doesn't get you in the door anymore.
Right.
So you need to bring other assets, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of Smash players are realizing that fighting game people, like they're starting to create content, and it just how we are moving towards that personalities need to do all of these things. And I think it's very overwhelming for like a lot of people, and people don't understand it because it's tough. It's very incredibly tough to do all of that stuff, right? To figure things out, because effectively you're starting your own business, and you are yourself. You're the brand that you're trying to sell, and not everyone has this like the knowledge to do that, right?
Vladimir will never get nerfed. You will get an 05 Yasuo in every one of your ranked games. NA will win worlds.
Hey man, got trouble sleeping? Try Brain Effect Sleep.
What are you doing in my home? Hello everyone, welcome to Pick Your Esports Brain, the very first episode we are producing together with Brain Effect. We're here at the Brain Effect podcast studio, and I'm very happy to have a very special guest, Dexter, also known as Marcel Feldkamp, who prefers to be known as Marcel Feldkamp these days.
Yeah, my playing career is over, so it has been quite a while since I've played actually. So
yeah, for those of you that aren't aware who Marcel is, he used to be a former pro player, of course, infamously known for CLGU was probably your best time.
Yep, Counterlogic with Double Lift, Alphamu, Link, Seraph. Yeah.
Right, not CLGU, just CLG.
CLG,
actually.
yeah. I went over to North America and played there. Yeah.
Going over to NA, the good old EU strategy. But we're going to talk, because since you've been a player agent, you're currently just chilling. But
Fun employed.
But you've been a player agent for like 3-4 years almost, and you've been working with a lot of LEC, LCS pros, even some other esports pros, of course. And we're going to talk a lot about the esports industry, about the esports bubble that doesn't exist, or does it really, or does it not? Salaries, and a lot of business talk that I'm very excited for, because a lot of stuff that is going on in the esports business usually is done behind doors, and the public doesn't get to know a lot of these things. So I'm very excited for that. So let's just start off with the general topic. Let's just address like the elephant in the room. We've all read the Kotaku esports bubble piece. Mm-hmm. What was your immediate reaction to that one?
I think it was a really well researched article, and it got like a lot of endorsement from like a lot of high level industry peers. But you also have to like understand. Personally, I really don't think that we are in like a esports bubble that everyone makes it out to be, and that everyone is like asking for like the doomsday basically and say, hey, this is gonna go away. We need to understand that esports actually, it's such a small industry, and I think everyone in the industry, like a lot of people, like to sell it bigger than it actually is, and obviously it leads to some pretty big problems. And next question is obviously like, is the viewership that we're tracking actually like very accurate? Is it like, do we need like more statistics? And I know LEC, for example, has like introduced like a new stat called the average minute watched or something instead of average concurrent viewer. So we really need to like start to develop better stats so we can better understand what we actually like selling and what is actually like happening in the system. And yeah, I mean, esports is like an umbrella term for everything. So obviously there's gonna be certain games and certain leagues that might not work out. And I personally believe in 3 to 5 years, what could very well happen is that 90% of the esports market might be dominated by like 5 teams. And then you actually have like 95 teams that are gonna fight over like the rest of the 10%. So now everyone is like, let's assume we have like 100,000 fans overall in the entire system. You probably have like 5 or 6 teams that already have like big access to like everyone. I would say like Team Liquid, C9, TSM in North America. And in Europe you have G2 is like dominating everything, and then kind of like Fnatic still. Like Fnatic is also really like popular, and then Origin, like still like a tier for himself, I would assume.
I guess Vitality maybe, because now they're really good in CSGO. They have a good Rocket League team, so they are diversifying their brands.
They're diversifying, but on an international scale, I think it's like we still have to ask ourselves, and I believe that just everything indicates towards it that like a couple of brands are going to be highly successful, and we are going into like a consolidation period where you will see like a lot of acquisitions. I think the next 2 years will be full of mergers and acquisition of brands, bigger brands absorbing smaller brands, and yeah, I think that's where we're actually heading right now.
Do you think that's healthy though? Because like it's so fascinating. Esports, I love esports in general, but esports is also just fascinating as a concept to me because you see developments in esports. Like let's just take the last 5 years, or 2013 to 2018, right? And how much it has exploded. How salaries have gone completely from like making no money to literally average salary in the LCS in 2018 already being 320,000. That explosion rate is so fast. Whereas in traditional sports, like let's say football or the Bundesliga as an example, it took decades for these developments to take place, and now we have them all combined in a mini form in esports. And we also see this in traditional sports that like certain clubs, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, they dominate the sports bubble, and then like the remaining traditional sports clubs are like fighting for the scraps. But it seems a bit unhealthy also, because like you have just so much control in the hands of such few people. What's like your take on that?
I mean, if you look at like, to just zoom out, if you look at entertainment and like companies in general, I think you can say the same thing for Amazon.
Right.
You have like one big hegemon, like one real winner of the space, and then you have like the long tail that everyone chases because there's not much left, right? I think the internet is basically doing that to like a lot of these industries, and the internet has only existed for like 30 years really. Which is why it's like weird to look at sports and say, hey, like, look, it took like 100 years to get here, but the internet has accelerated so much that even right now, this like the entire sponsorship dollars and everything that's flowing into the sports aspect is still increasing by a lot, right? And I think NBA, for example, is like the most interesting example. I think it's like the one league that actually utilizes all their players and their stories very well. And I made this tweet about where I personally think that the NBA Twitter is more interesting than the game itself because of all the storylines that are coming together. I mean, you have Drake on the sidelines, basically. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if Drake actually had like a more social reach on social media than the win itself, from the sports team, because he's such a big fan. Like, it looked like he would be a player himself, He like walked off the court, and I love that shit. It's very entertaining, and I think the equivalent to that is like kind of like what Carlos is trying to do in G2, and it's kind of working because why would you fight over like the small pie that is esports right now when you have so many more to reach and can bring in all the people? I think it's a better approach for some organizations to just say, hey, listen, esports is such a small thing. We don't really, like, as bad as it sounds, we don't care about like our 1,000 fans. Let's bring in like the millions of people from the outside and try to convert them into fans. And I think that's what kind of like G2 is positioning to do. 100 Thieves for sure, they are trying to do it. And yeah, like I said, I think we're gonna have a couple people dominate the space, and you can see it on the Twitch ecosystem as well. Like all the influencers with like 10 people, 10 streamers control like 50-60% of the market basically, and it's just how it is. Do
you think though that's like, so for example, Amazon is of course the most extreme example we can point to.
A very extreme example.
But like let's say Facebook, for example, there's a lot of theory by philosophers and stuff that like companies like Facebook and maybe even Amazon in the future will be just like targeted by groups, and like especially because Americans don't like hegemonies, so they try to split them up as fast as they can, so that these companies will eventually lose their grasp again, which I mean would be an interesting thing to look at. But when you talk about the entertainment things and stuff as well, you look at like someone like, say, Dr. Disrespect was voted most popular streamer like two years ago at the Esports Awards, and now you can see how well he had a few scandals. Of course, it doesn't help your brand, but you also
no, I think it does help your brand because if you look at it, he got banned.
There's no bad publicity.
There's no bad publicity, and if you look at it right now, it's like he started filming in like a bathroom, right? In a public bathroom. Yeah. He got a ban, right? And basically what it is Twitch sends him on a paid vacation because the second he turns on the stream, 80 to 100,000 viewers again. So in reality, is the bad publicity really that hard to overcome? Because the anticipation that you're building actually is offsetting. You know what I mean?
Because like he's not streaming, so people are really desperate for his next stream. Exactly. So they're all gonna tune in the moment he's finally gonna stream again. That's what happened with Tyler 1 as well when he broke all his records.
Exactly. So that's the big thing, is like bad publicity is actually like it's actually like a good thing almost in the esports system.
We failed. God damn it.
We failed, right? Yeah. But if you look at it, it's like every single streamer that had like some kind of controversial thing that had like a ban from Twitch for like 1 or 2 weeks, people anticipate the stream and people talk about it, and then what people really want is a reaction from them on first stream again. And that's why I think it's kind of like weird to say it's a bad thing, because in reality it's just a paid vacation.
We're 100%. Okay, at this point I'm not going to throw out any allegations, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point if the whole bathroom thing was actually kind of planned.
It's probably not. It's just probably I think it's stupidity, honestly. It's stupidity.
Okay, but like in the future, I guarantee you we're gonna see streamers pull the shit, because like in German rap in particular, you see like beefs and stuff like that, and it's so fake. It's
drama sells.
It's insane. We're all drama whores, but TSM also does it like they sign a lot of players and get a lot of revenue on that regard, right? Like that's part of their core business model. We spoke a bit in the car, of course, on the way here, and you mentioned how every pro esports player needs to start streaming, or basically they'll fade into irrelevance, and that like, or not as extreme maybe you were, but like, and that, for example, the current TFT tournament, we have a lot of people on our competitive TFT Discord server, which is very good, and some of them are really, really good players, but they didn't get invited because they only have like 600 viewers, compared to big streamers that have no TFT skill but are big streamers. And so it's like the future of esports going to be dominated by people that are the most entertaining and popular, rather than the best like it always was until a certain point?
I don't think so. But what I do think is that Twitch has put the esports ecosystem, it's like a double-edged sword for Twitch right now, because first of all, you have the esports was so dominating on Twitch like 5-6 years ago that it was like the only thing it is. And now actually, if you look at numbers and really dig into it, esports makes up like, I hear the number 8% of the entire ecosystem. Yeah. So what's going to end up happening is you have 92% of streamers, or like people that feed into the ecosystem, that don't really have anything to do with esports, but are rather like entertainer and gamers and competitors. And what I think is happening is that we have seen the resurgence of like Battle Royale last year. It's very much 1 on X. It's like 1 against 99 people. TFT is 1 against 7, but you are like playing for yourself. You don't have to work in a team environment. And I think games that are focused on just yourself, there's no reason not to broadcast what you're thinking, because it's like, if you could watch LeBron James or something practice on his own stream, wouldn't you do it? Right?
I don't watch NBA, but yes, I would assume
just
if
like,
I would,
take any other random athlete at the top, like Tiger Woods or like Federer or someone. Wouldn't you watch him want to practice, on his own stream? And I think that's kind of what's happening right now, where you don't have to have the team component aspect of it. That most games that have been released in the last 2 to 3 years are pretty individual based, and they're moving away from the team fight and 5-on-5 model, where you actually can just stream and broadcast yourself all over the world. And sad reality is that you might be the best right now at TFT. Let's say you're the best player, but you don't have a Twitch following, then there's no incentive for anyone to really know about you and like invite you to like the tournaments. And Twitch Rivals has become so big that they're basically like a tournament organizer at this point. And I would for sure only invite people that are actually bringing views too right now, because sad reality is that you need views to sell sponsors, and it needs to make economical sense. So but I think there's no downside for anyone to stream, right? And look at Fortnite as well. Everyone is streaming their world qualifications duels or something, and everyone is broadcasting it out now. Method right now is world racing, world first. Before they took everything private and said, okay, the whole process is going to be private. We want to be first. Now they're just broadcasting it to the public. So Twitch has actually like removed the layer, like it's like getting thinner and thinner. So you're more closer to the competitor than ever before, right? Than any other social media before. Instagram and Twitter is a lot more like about thoughts. Instagram is a lot more about like superficial stuff, about pictures. And now like you actually have like the live content, right? So it removes the layer between fans and makes like very, very interactive. And the great thing about Twitch is that all the viewers are actually participating in the content and are co-creating the content in the Twitch chat. All the memes that are being spawned, like all the funny things. A lot of funny things are actually happening in Twitch chat, honestly. Yeah. And we might hate Twitch chat and we actually don't like it too much, or like people, like some people in general. But for the majority of people, it's actually like something they can participate in and belong to. And it's great. It's honestly, you feel like you're contributing to something, right? It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. So is it like, is the future, or in the next few years, are we going to see a fight between entertainment gamers that are maybe even like high elo and the best of the best, and like people will need to make a decision. Hey, do I want to watch the most entertaining players and the players that give me the best storylines or that are just funny, or do I want to watch the very best players? Is that like a decision you think that people will have to make in the next few years?
I already thought I think North America, especially LCS and North American solo queue, has already proven that concept. You actually have a lot of top tier streamers that are playing with pros, and most pros I say, have like 100, 200 viewers, whereas the entertainers have like 10,000 of viewers. So I think right now it's definitely like, as the ecosystem grows, that if you want to be good at streaming and you want to become very successful, I think you need to be very, very authentic, because no one can stream for 10 hours a day and
not be authentic,
right? You need to be like 100% yourself, and you need to be likable, and then you need to be very entertaining, and you need to be very good at the game.
Right.
And if you're very good at the game and entertaining, then you can have kind of something like Ninja and Shroud, and that's how they made their big breakthrough through Twitch. But I think just being good at a game no longer really helps you in that regard, unless you're a star, like a superstar talent, right? And you like really stand out. But it's so hard these days to really stand out.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I'm wondering about as well. When you recommend pro players to do more social, do more streaming, do more YouTube, do more media, I agree completely that like there should be more. But I also sometimes feel like, hey, if this player would be streaming, would I watch them? Or is it like, well, I can also like in EU, I could also watch someone like Jankos, for example, who's super funny and super good, and it's like, well, like there is a limited amount of people that can stream and be popular.
There's only like attention doesn't scale. Yeah. People can't spend more attention than they have in a day.
Exactly.
Right? So you can only watch so much, and you can't watch multiple things at once. So there's only gonna be a few winners of the space, which is coming back to what I said in the first side of the video, that I think the space will always be dominated by a few selected individuals at the top. And I think that's just how it is. And quite honestly, it's great, because you wanna have. It's like a kind of like a pyramid when you have when you play, right? At the bottom, you have like the super grassroots people, the casuals. Then you have like the semi-professionals, and you have like the professionals. And then within those systems, you go like further to the top, and then you have like a very few selected superstars. And those are the personalities that you wanna really push and create engaging stories around, because those are the people that actually draw interest, not because of the sport itself or the game itself, but they draw outside interest, right? So for me, for example, I never watched tennis the last 20 years, and then now we actually have like this whole like this trio at the top, like with Federer, Nadal, and I'm really interested, just because I think the aspect and the
Djokovic, by the way, Djokovic.
I forgot him, but I'm just really interested in the whole thing, and I think it's great. I think it sadly has to be. Not everyone can be a superstar.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
Absolutely, and like in sports, it's the same. It's just like a matter of, and again, football analogy is beautiful here, because 10, 20 years ago, and a lot of people complain about this in football, is that 20 years ago there was no superstar in the team, right? Like everyone was a member of the team. The team winning is the most important
Communism,
thing.
Basically, everyone was the same, right?
Yeah, and everyone wears for the badge. You play for the badge, not for yourself. And now we have, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, individual brands that like overcome even team brands. So I'm just like, there's no definitive answer. I'm just like always in this conflict of, is this a good thing? And I think the public to an extent is as well, because people like these rules that used to be are being broken up, both by Twitch and esports in general. And now we need to figure out, hey, do we want this, or do we accept the new change or not, basically. It's
it also really depends on the game design, right? If the game design doesn't really allow you to stand out, then you have a situation where you have Heroes of the Storm. Everyone is the same, no items, no individual play. And then I don't think people that are actually really good at it and want to invest, you want to have people that invest like everything they have into it, because that actually makes the most captivating stories. If they can't do that and they feel they don't make enough of a difference, it's the same as working for like a large company. If you feel that you don't make a difference, right, that it's tough to really like stand out. I think that's the same with like esports teams and in general and esports games. You want to have tools and mechanisms to like really stand out, and the game design of some games doesn't really allow it. I think in League of Legends it kind of goes back right now, where we have like standout performances. I don't really see it too much in Overwatch. I think in Overwatch is like a bit, it's still there, but it's not as prevalent like in League of Legends. And then at the top you have like Counter-Strike, someone like Simple really stands out, right? You want to celebrate those players that are really good, and I think it's a good thing.
Do you have a favorite esport? Okay, let's go with favorite ecosystem, because that's something that really triggered me about the esports bubble article, is that the notion of like esports being one cohesive thing, right? Like that it is not everyone inside the industry gets it, everyone outside of it doesn't.
Yeah.
And like if Overwatch tomorrow, Overwatch is cancelled. Like Overwatch is cancelled. Oops. Overwatch League is dead, right? Okay, everything's done. CS:GO doesn't give a shit basically. Like it's gonna be the same ecosystem there.
Yeah, that's why I get what you're saying.
We need to make that a bit more clear, I feel like, to a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just, it's a small industry. I think we're just starting to grow up a bit.
Yeah.
It's just growing pains. And I don't think we're in an esports bubble, because even if Overwatch goes away tomorrow, if you look at the top teams like TSM, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, G2, Fnatic, they actually don't have esports teams in those leagues. So how are they going to be hit, Financially, they don't really take the hit.
Yeah.
Maybe on the valuations, they might not be able to raise as much money, because the reason why valuations are so high are mainly because publishers said, hey, we need 10 to 25 million from you guys, because that's how much we're going to charge. And I think that's why I'm thinking it's like, I don't think we are in an esports bubble. I think LEC, for example, it's the best product. And then coming back to the question, what is my esports my favorite esports? It's changing. I think it's. I'm a big fan of Counter-Strike. I think it's just great to watch. I love watching Smash and like the fighting games. I think it's really, they have some of the most interesting personalities to follow, and I'm great friends with like some of them.
Shout out to Anti, by the way, best brand on Twitter and Instagram.
Anti has a great brand. I mean, Zero is pivoting more into the content style now. You have like Sonic Fox, like all these really cool stories, which is what I really like about it. Yeah. And then you have League of Legends. I mean, I've been part of League of Legends, and it has been changing my life forever. I would say, in a very positive way. So I will have to be a hardcore fan, and I'm still watching more LEC right now and LCS than ever before, because it's just very interesting, and partly because it's my job to do that. Yeah.
So I remember in 2018 we spoke at EULCS back then, and you were pretty set on the fact that Overwatch League wasn't as bad as people were portraying it as at the time. What is like your opinion on Overwatch League right now?
They just announced like the Homestead thing, where people have takeaway games and everything, and the biggest problem that I have is, I think if we zoom out, Blizzard doesn't really inspire too much confidence right now. I think just from what you see in the public, Nate Lancer's gone.
Hundreds of people
are gone. I think the first like red flag was basically when Mike Mohan just said, okay, I'm out, and resigned. And then Kim Fan, like a esports executive that has been there for like 15 years, that is like, she posted like the Team Liquid forums, not something you will see someone from, she was very in touch with the community, I think. It just like, you have to start asking questions like, what is actually like going on there, and is it really like all shiny and bright, what is going on? And then now that Call of Duty is, they're raising like again $25 million for that. I'm still pretty interested to see who's going to end up joining the league. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if we're going to have more endemic brands buying into it, or if the endemic brands that bought into Overwatch League are actually scaling down. So we only have like one or two brands from the esports system, and then a lot of outsiders buying in, right? I think that's going to be interesting to follow. So Overwatch League, I think from a product perspective, it's incredible. I think what they've built is really great. And if the game wouldn't be as bad as it is, or like in that direction, a lot of the top tier pro players and streamers have actually quit already. So that's like, it doesn't really inspire confidence, but everything around it, I think their sales team is incredible. I think what they've built, they have some of the best broadcasting talent. And if the game would be better and different, and maybe there's rumors of Overwatch 2. I'm not sure if you have heard it. Yeah, maybe Overwatch 2 can be the savior. But at one point, I really love Blizzard. I grew up on them. I love Blizzard games. But at one point, like, is it becoming less and less interesting for me, right? So I think maybe Overwatch 2 maybe you can change the underlying game, take the same product, change the games to Overwatch 2, have teams play on that, and it's actually like a lot better and a lot entertaining. Maybe that actually works out. But at the same time, it just, you have to look at player base. I think that's the only stat, and the biggest problem with Overwatch is that if you have a franchise system, you can't scale it down if the player base goes down. So you can't accordingly scale. Whereas if you have an open system like Counter-Strike, you're very much adapted to, you can just turn on the tournament organizers, you can just do that. But you can't just say, okay, we're gonna close the doors. You guys invested 20 million, but that's
how it is.
Sucks for you, right? So a lot of people are like talking negatively about the Overwatch League. I think it's like the sentiment is overall negative, but what they've built in like a year or two is great. I'm just not as bullish on the game itself. I think if we would take what they have built there and have a great game under it, and I also think that Overwatch League might have been too early. I think if they would have built the same product 5 years ago, like 5 years from now on, it would have been a completely different story. So context really matters too, right? And timing in the market is the most important thing in esports. Because now, not only do you have to make sure that the game keeps up to date for the next 5 years, but you also have to compete against every single game that is not even developed yet and is coming out. And like it's just it's a hit-driven business, right? There's a game coming out, exploding out of nowhere. No one can predict it. Fortnite came out of nowhere. Now Auto Chess and TFT is coming out of nowhere. And you are not, can you really adapt that much with what you have in the toolbox? Which is why a lot of people from the outside are probably a bit skeptical about esports as an investment, like a great investment, because you really need to invest into developers, but you don't
you don't know them.
You don't know, right? And developers, I would assume the real interesting thing, what's going to happen is the best game designers are going to be always poached by the best studios. And I think that's what Epic Games is doing right now. They're just getting all the big talent.
100%.
And how are you going to compete against that, right? How you can't be flexible on that end, right?
Yeah.
So I know I talked a lot about this, but I think it's very important to understand context about everything and really see the big picture. Just saying, it's a failure is a complete... It's dumb.
It's too easy.
It's too easy. It's too easy, right?
For sure.
If you can do it better, go ahead, No, but that's my opinion on it. I think they've done a great job at building that product. It's just the game didn't really take off nearly as much as it needed to in order to hit that critical mass
point. And then also keep that critical mass, that minimum layer of core gamers that play the game every day. It's so hard, but it's that's what's needed for an esport. And I felt like they pushed the whole Overwatch League thing. I mean, they announced it almost immediately after the game was released, right?
It felt like the game was built to be esports, right?
Yeah, true. And they completely did it, but they didn't wait to hit that safe minimum level that you that bar that you need to hit, or maybe they hit it in the first 2 months and thought we hit it, but then the long, because I played a lot of Overwatch when it launched. I even played the beta and everything, and I loved it, but after 2 months it just eventually just faded away, because Overwatch as a game is just it doesn't give you the same flexibility like other games. I can't try different item paths. I get really hardcore punished for mistakes that I don't really see, whereas in League of Legends it's a lot more intuitive. FIFA is a lot more easier to understand, right? On that level. Card games are super easy, that's why they're so popular. And Overwatch is really hard to understand for the average gamer, and it's therefore a really hard game to grind out and understand, as a core casual gamer. Because, Call of Duty also, if you get shot while you see, okay, he flanked me from the left side, maybe I should look on both sides next time. Yeah. It's very straightforward, but Overwatch was lacking that. I find it interesting that you mentioned Overwatch 2, though, because I think that the only way in which this can still turn into a huge success is Overwatch 2, but Overwatch 2 needs to be free to play. If they release Overwatch 2, even if it's the best game of all time, because before I really entered esports full time, I was working as a games journalist, and I was always really interested in the industry of video games too. And what's so interesting is that Destiny, huge hype around it, right? The game, not the streamer. Huge game that was so hyped. The next best thing from the Halo developers, their big project, their passion thing, and then it just failed because the game had a lot of hype, it had a lot of cool ideas, but it just didn't deliver properly on the end game in particular. They scrap it eventually. Destiny 2 comes out. Fantastic game. Way better than the first one. You look at the reviews, they go up. All of it. And still, as far as I can tell, Destiny 2 has a much smaller player base than Destiny 1. Because it's still a full-price game. And the people that bought Destiny 1 and paid like 60, 70, 80 bucks for it are now not going to buy the second one because they just got flopped by the first one. So that's oof.
I mean, how many iterations did Counter-Strike have before it went to Counter-Strike Go? Yeah. You had Dota 1, Dota 2. There's no reason to believe that it can't work for Overwatch 2, right? Yeah. So that's why it's I should give it a chance. I think I've given Blizzard many chances already, I think. And it's hard to just not play a Blizzard game, I think, right? So I think Overwatch 2, I hope they can deliver. And if it's actually going to be a success, maybe you're all going to end up playing Overwatch 2 because it's just the greatest game that's going to come out, right? Who knows? So I think, yeah, I always told everyone, it's like, what do you think of Overwatch League? I said, I will just wait for like 1.5 years because I think right now it's fair to be skeptical, especially with like high valuations. And now they're like doubling the chip with Call of Duty as well. So you have to, if you really want to buy into like developer, you have to pay twice. For me, esports is just nothing more than community. The greatest esports are all coming from the community, and the community decides collectively what is actually like in trend. It's the same why streamers are blowing up, because people collectively, it's like a network effect. People come together and decide, okay, this is what I watch, and this is what I want to watch. And I think gamers are actually sophisticated enough in this age that they know what they want from games, and if they don't get it, they just move on, right?
Because they have so many alternatives.
There's so many alternatives, and there's gonna be a lot of other games. So, yeah, I think like we actually had like a bit of a slow release cycle like the last 2-3 years, I think, of games. I'm just waiting for like a lot more titles to play, and I think we haven't even seen the best esports game that is gonna be like the ultimate esports game. It hasn't even been developed yet.
Okay, so I teased it at the start, I think. No, I didn't tease it. I teased it off cam. That I have a really spicy curveball question for you. So I wrote down this question on Sunday. It's a Wednesday, and since then the investment of 35 million for 100 Thieves has been announced. So let me ask you a question. If a genie would appear, the esports genie, and he goes, okay, Marcel, you have I give you 3 options.
Yeah.
One of them comes true. You can either become the CEO of Immortals, who have now also overtaken, of course, Up the Gaming. You can be the right-hand man of Carlos at G2, or you can be the CEO of 100 Thieves. Which one would you choose?
I think it's obvious at this point, probably. But I should probably give my reasoning why. So Immortals, I think they're building something super interesting, and they're not going into like one brand, but they rather have a holding company where they're gonna have different brands.
Right.
And the Immortals brand is probably gonna be the League of Legends brand. Made in Brazil is gonna be a Counter-Strike team.
Optic
I would assume that Optic is gonna be Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have like different things, which is gonna be in the event of like a liquidation event where you actually sell things, or you wanna part your ways for certain things. You can just sell off the entire thing much easier than if it's attached to your brand name. So that's what they're trying to do. And there's like a lot of those holding companies in sports too that have multiple sport teams that own them, and I think their approach is pretty much all in. They're very hyper bullish on esports, and they're very aggressive with their esports investment, right? So they made a pretty expensive acquisition. Carlos, I think, right hand of Carlos would be interesting in Europe, but I think the problem is that if you want to play in the really big league, you have to kind of be in North America right now. I like Carlos, but I think his biggest advantage is not him being in North America right now. So even though it would be interesting, I would still be like the right hand to him. No one likes to be second, right? And then third thing is like Thieves. I mean, I personally don't think I would be equipped to like be such a good microphone for them like Nadeshot, right? But it would certainly be one of the teams I would find very fascinating to work in, because their culture and how they're building everything, it just feels like they're just making power move after power move. And while a lot of esports teams are not really doing much with their brand right now, and you get like decent news like once every 1 or 2 years, every single quarter you have like some explosive news from them, right?
I think every month at this point. The acquisitions they've made over the last 4 months were just insane. And then, on top, 35 million investment, by the way.
Yeah.
Series B, easy. And like the previous round was with like Drake investing and stuff.
Drake investing, Scooter Braum, they have that connection. Then the whole story that they're telling is just they're becoming part of pop culture. They want to define pop culture in a way that esports belongs there. And through like their investment, I mean, they also get like an investment from the holding company of Louis Vuitton. So put one and one together, I think we were gonna see maybe, hopefully in the future, like a collaboration between Louis Vuitton and 100 Thieves. If 100 Thieves actually has that street credibility in the gaming market, and they're actually doing that, it's just incredible what they're building, right? And they announced they sold like $500,000 in like 10-15 minutes of merch, and now they're announcing their retail location, so you can actually have like a 100 Thieves shop where you're gonna go in and stuff, and
get the Supreme drops now. Get the 100 Thieves drops. That's gonna be the new thing.
It is true though. Yeah. It's like I've been there. I've been at the warehouse, and a lot of my former coworkers actually went there, so I have a good connection, and I really like those people. I mean, of course, I have like my collection at home too. You know, it's great because it's really good esports that actually looks good, right? And the way they're positioning themselves is just so smart. I mean, if you look at it, everyone has 100 Thieves like everyone wants it. It's kind of like the exclusivity that makes it like you're selling the line kind of, right? Because it's so exclusive, everyone wants it, and everyone wants to be part of 100 Thieves now. It's kind of like the same what happened with FaZe. Everyone wanted to be FaZe Clan, you know. Now 100 Thieves is like the hotter version of that right now on the esports market, not in the gaming market, but on esports. It's 100 Thieves, and they're doing a lot of things right.
I mean, FaZe Clan is even like pretty active in Fortnite, and again, it's so fascinating to me how we have a lot of people in esports that are very knowledgeable and very intelligent and know the market, but then like you ask them about like the Fortnite market, and it's too many markets sometimes in esports that it's tough to keep cover, up. Yeah,
Fortnite is interesting. I mean, it's dominated by like 14 to 15-year-old people, and it is crazy actually. It's basically like winning. The thing with Fortnite is it's like buying a lottery ticket with your like 15-year-old kids.
If you were an esports team, you mean, and you buy a player.
Yeah, you get a player. It's like your lottery ticket to like the World Cup and everything, unless he is like doing content creation. And then we come back to what we just talked about, that you
which at this point everyone does kind of.
You need to be. Yeah. And I think it's just in your best interest. And if you want to have all of that, you can focus on just being a player, but just being a player doesn't get you in the door anymore. Right. So you need to bring other assets, right? Yeah. And a lot of Smash players are realizing that fighting game people, like they're starting to create content, and it's just how we are moving towards that personalities need to do all of these things. And I think it's very overwhelming for like a lot of people, and people don't understand it because it's tough. It's very incredibly tough to do all of that stuff, right? To figure things out, because effectively you're starting your own business, and you are yourself. You're the brand that you're trying to sell. And not everyone has this like the knowledge to do that, right? And then obviously we have
maybe not even the brand.
Not even the brand. And then now we have like a lot of agencies that come in and help out with that stuff. And like you can basically outsource your monetization to agencies, and they help you out with all of that stuff. That was for like the last 3 years my job. And it's great. I think it's awesome. You know, everyone wins. It's good.
Do you think though that League of Legends players in particular are kind of bad at that compared to other titles? Because like I see the Misfits kid. He's like what 13, 14.
Skeptic. He
has like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's awesome. Like, it's awesome, but it's like also 1 million subscribers for just like playing Fortnite. Damn.
There's this one kid, I think, that's like 8 or 9 years old, and he was like the #1 earning on YouTube. He's like a kid that does like toy reviews.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
It's like, look at this, you know. And coming back to your thing, are League of Legends players branded? I think in season 4 we had like so many big brands. Like we had Krampus, Snoopy, like the EG team, right? And then TSM players like Wild Turtle, all of these people. I think we had like a lot more personalities involved in the pro scene back then, and now they're all spinned off to like become streamers. So we kind of still have them in the ecosystem, but the up and coming players right now, they only care about playing. Yeah. And I think it's good and bad, because we have developed to a point where we can actually make a career of just being good at it and just playing. But at the same time, I think a lot of the interesting personalities are not really there anymore. And we have them involved, like as a team owner, for example, Carlos, like he was a player. Who else? Like some of them became casters, right? Yeah. Cobbe, Jet became a caster. Now he's like in the...
Oh, Kobe, not Cobbe. You said Cobbe.
Kobe 24, that guy, from North America, not... Splice 80.
No, but like you said Cobbe, and I was like, why are you talking about the Splice 80? He's still playing. He's good.
He's good. He's great. No, that's what I mean, right? Yeah. I think it's tough to get the personality out of them. Right. I think like Caps, for example, he's like doing more now. Yeah. For example, right? He has been doing a lot of development, and I would assume that Carlos is like the guy that is like, hey, you need to do this. He's like helping him out. Perks is like the same, right? I think, we have a lot of... It could be a lot more interesting, but then again, you can't force someone to do it, right? It needs to come from themselves.
I realized that I should have asked this question earlier, because we've kind of already diluted from the topic. 100 Thieves, right? I find 100 Thieves to be so fascinating, because 100 Thieves came into the space and everyone was like either, wow, I'm super hyped because of Nadeshot, or I'm like... well, this guy was Call of Duty, this is League of Legends, what the fuck are the connections here? So that was like the immediate reaction. Then they played really well on Spring Split, make it to finals, got Aframu, the Aframovers double lift final, everything's super cool, they look nice, they have, of course, the good branding in its nature, in their core, and then they kind of started faltering competitively, of course, in summer and then at Worlds, even though they had a really tough group. I've always been saying that they got really unlucky there. And then even in spring, 10th place was it with Bang?
10th place,
They get in Bang and place 10th, right?
And
now
someday in Bang, 10th place in North America.
And someday has always been good, by the way. Like, always been hard carrying.
Stats tell a different story.
Really?
They're starting to win right now without someday. So
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
win-based analysis right there. You're a good Reddit user right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you now see them on an upswing again. But in general, they've kind of really invested on the apparel merch and everything, right?
Yeah.
And so it feels like to me they're almost more of a clothing brand than an esports team right now. And is that they're going to be the future? Because G2 obviously is pushing that as well.
They're not an esports company,
right?
Like, if you listen to how they actually position themselves, not even in their Twitter handle, it's not even an esports company.
Yeah.
They're using esports as a launch pad for their gaming, apparel, and lifestyle brand, which is what G2 is trying to do to launch their entertainment empire.
Right. But like G2 is also still super competitive. Like I feel like there's a different level of competitiveness that I see from 100 Thieves.
There is, but G2 also doesn't have the brand and the same branding as 100 Thieves,
right.
I think, right? But I think if 100 Thieves actually starts performing and fixes the competitive side of things, they're gonna go through the roof, It's crazy. Like, if you can manage to build such a strong brand and such a strong fan base while losing 10th place, I think no other team has ever done that, really, right? I mean, you can make that.
I mean, to be fair, like in all fairness, they probably built it before that, and like they started out.
But they still have a lot of fans, and they still didn't lose the fans because they're not like bandwagoning of it, right? You can make the argument for Shanghai Dragons 040. They actually had a stronger fan base than any of the middle teams, right? Yeah, which is kind of weird, but I guess it's.
I mean, that is just like pure underdog, kind of like how people used to be for unicorns as well. Like a lot of unicorns fans, it's just like underdogs are also popular, and then Shanghai was that.
Yeah, and then I think Team Liquid right now is building something really incredible too.
In what regards?
Strong management, and they just have the best Counter-Strike team, best Dota team, strongest League team in North America. So let's assume that Team Liquid will actually make it to Worlds at finals. I think it would be crazy big for that organization, and I think Steve is actually winning. And he's betting on winning everything, right? And of course, paid by Steve, you have that meme. But he's building so much brand equity that you can almost offset the cost that you pay those players as a marketing, right? If that makes sense. So
yeah, because now they're selling also tons of merch, and like they have the new Morvo Co-op. I can't wait until the sales are out for that. Do you think that there's a much greater difference between esports teams than people understand? Because I feel like I look at like G2, for example, when they sold their Spanish jersey, they sold out. Then they had like a stock of 10,000, and they sold it out in like 2 weeks or a week or something like that. Like I remember writing the article about that, speaking with Carlos about it and stuff. And like just selling 10,000 jerseys in a week is that is free money coming in basically.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
And 100 Thieves is probably doing the same thing. Team Liquid now dropping merch after merch as well. And then you have other teams like. I'm not trying to diss any teams, right? But I barely ever see someone in an Excel or Splice or other jerseys at LEC, like even at LEC finals or playoffs where these teams might be there. Like Splice is an organization that has so much history and has competitive drive. They're third place, definitely in the league right now, but you just don't see the jerseys, and it's like. Is that going to be the future, the focus on merch and actually selling and actually getting in the revenue, like utilizing the platform
for now,
that some teams are also maybe not doing properly? They create the competitive success, but they're not leveraging from it?
I would assume so, yes. I mean, I think it's just a lot that, like I said right now, I think we are seeing that with merchandise. I think like the jerseys and everything, if you go to like an arena and an esports event and you see 90% of like the jerseys are like from the same 3 teams, I think it's kind of plays into my thesis or like my prediction or whatever you want to call it, that I think a lot of the esports market is going to be dominated by like a small hand of teams. And I think you can actually see that. And how are small teams are going to work against that? It's like either you're building such a strong brand through like content creation and like streaming and like very interesting, compelling stories that the competitive results don't matter, which is 100 Thieves, which is makes it possible, or you start winning and you win a lot and people like to be like following winners, right? Those are like the 2 things. And if you're just playing in the system right now and you just bought in, you have a spot and you're just participating and you don't even want to show like an effort, or you can't really figure it out, then yeah, you won't sell jerseys. That's just how it is, you know. I mean, jerseys are expensive too, right? And if you look at the average spend of the user, people probably can't afford to just buy jerseys from every single team. So you want to have one item.
Yeah.
And if you have to choose between like someone like G2 right now or like Fnatic, and compared to like Excel and Rogue, like who would you choose if you're like someone like an average fan, right? They all go with the winner, sadly, you know, and that's just the sad reality of it. It's just competition, you know.
Yeah, and I'm wondering the whole city thing, is that ever gonna be a thing in esports? Because I don't think so.
So for me, I think esports stadiums that are being built just purely for the aspect of esports, they're gonna fail horribly because first of all, you can't fill all these fans, and you can't have 5,000, 10,000 people showing up to weekly matches because there's going to be exhaustion. It doesn't work like in sports, right? So event space are like a different thing. When you can utilize event spaces, rent them out, start making money that way. I think I just saw an article last 2-3 weeks ago that Schalke, the big arena, the Wels Arena, where they have it, they just paid it off completely after 20 years. So now they start making money. 20 years, right? But if you associate yourself with like big stadiums and esports to like a single brand and not like the sport itself, I think it's becoming quite difficult. And I mean, honestly, my viewing experience being in person at home, I can watch a screen. I have the same screen that I watch at. Then if I go to like an event, we look at the same thing.
It's probably
right?
the better quality.
It's better quality
like,
at home.
You have to look up in an event and stuff.
Then you can participate in the content through like Twitch chat, like I told already. I have Twitter, I have Discord, I can talk to my friends and everything, and they can be across the world. And I think it's just like the physical aspect of the esports, it's just there to look nice for the camera. Yeah. And all the real thing is happening in the virtual space.
Do you think that we're gonna see like fandom in esports in that facet is also fascinating because like people are fans of multiple teams, whereas in traditional sports it's like I'm a basketball fan of the Knicks. That's a baseball team. I'm a basketball fan of the Golden State Warriors.
Guardians, right?
Golden Guardians is also
of course, Warriors.
Okay, Golden State Warriors. That's a team.
Yeah,
that's where the one guy plays. That is really good. And I'm a football fan. I'm a Premier League fan of West Ham and stuff. In esports, that's a lot less common still. I feel like G2 is trying to push that more, and I like it. Like they are anti-Fnatic. If Carlos goes like, if Fnatic plays in World's Finals, I'm gonna cheer against them.
That's great.
Yeah,
it makes storylines. It makes rivalry interesting. You know. Look at North America. We don't have any rivalries there. Like TSM, CLG, it's dead. It doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, but CLG beat TSM, and it's been 648 days since they lost it, and now it's really official, guys. CLG is back.
And who cares?
Yeah.
Where are the personalities driving the things behind the scenes? You know, you need to have someone. You need to have like a narrator, like a storyteller, right?
Right.
I think it would be fucking awesome if Carlos would just like start shooting against like Nadeshot if they start howsoever. Wouldn't that be crazy if G2 would like go against 100 Thieves in some kind of way, right?
Woo! Woo!
Straight fire.
They
right?
just got 5 degrees hotter in this room. Jesus Christ.
So,
That should be a thing. More rivalries and more dedicated
more rivalries,
fans.
Yeah. Not afraid to like talk shit a bit, you know. Look at Wonder. I mean, he popped off, dude, with a couple of tweets, and it's great. It's awesome. We need that, you know? And then you have in North America, like, Broken Blade tweeting, like, one thing I remember, it's like, he flamed him, and then people was like, wow. Like, people are shocked. It's like, people was like, oh my God, you can't say this. Are you serious? I think you should delete the tweet. I was like, no, it's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. Like, have some balls, you know, call some people out if you want to be like that, and if you can't back it up, that's great, but trash talk was only good before the game, not after the game.
100% yes. We our most the most upvoted interview that ever hit Reddit was a Double Lift interview where he said that exact line, and it was by the Shotcaller, by the way. Of course. Yeah. Trash talk is always only funny before the game and not after. 100%. One last topic I just want to scratch on. What do we think of like small scale esports? So we see a lot of hype in Germany, in particular around FIFA.
Yeah.
We see, other titles like Heroes of the Storm just breaking away. Like it's just not a thing anymore.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah,
never
it's
existed.
It's incredibly difficult. Like it feels like esports is just all in or nothing, right? Like that's just how the game works. And the same applies to the esports scenes themselves. And so you're a player agent. Did you ever have like contact with FIFA guys or anything? Is that like a topic that you were interested in?
Yeah, I know like a lot of people that are running agencies in the space. Stark Esports, for example, they're talking like the DFB and they're trying to like do it, and it's a different world. I think it's much much smaller scale. I think it's not as big as like League of Legends, for example. And I focus mainly like League of Legends, Overwatch League, and Fortnite for my stuff. But yeah, smaller scale esports, I mean, there's still a place for it, and it exists, and it's great, and it needs to start somewhere. But the expectations need to be set realistically, right? So I think there's room for everything. I mean, who tells you what can't be in esports, you know? I think it's like such an elitist way of thinking. I was like, yeah, my game is the only real esports that exists, and everything below like 10,000 units is not a real esports. And just because it's not as competitive is not a real esports. So the lines between esports, gaming, and entertainment are blurring more and more. So we have seen it in Fortnite. We can't really hold competition apart from entertainment anymore, right? So yeah, we will always have that, I think, and it's as long as we understand this is just entertainment, and people take like great offense in what Fortnite is doing, but they have never communicated. They've never tried to be like, we wanna be the esports. They've never marketed that way. It's just a marketing tool to get players to compete, and it happens to be that some of the bigger streamers are always invited because they bring all the fans, and that's where entertainment blurs the lines with esports, right? It's a good thing, but if you just want to purely focus on the esports aspect, sometimes it's not enough. So if you look at, I think I'm a really great fan of Battle Right, the game, Bloodline Champions. Yep. I thought Bloodline Champions was ahead of its time, and I honestly think that if I could like revive one game, it would be this title, because it would honestly be, it's purely skill-based. It's like 3-on-3, it's great, it's really nice, but it focused too much on the competition aspect, right? And then it failed because it couldn't retain players, because the skill ceiling between players and casual players was too high. Yep. The difference was too high. That's disencouraging for players. So now, in order for us to reach like a lot of people on a mass scale, the entry level needs to be good enough for everyone, and the skill ceiling, but at the same time, the skill ceiling needs to be good enough for pros to like really express themselves in the game, right? Which is why it's so hard to make a really great game now that everyone likes. Because usually, if casual players like a game, the pros hate it, right? That's why you see pros complaining about solo queue all the time, and about like balance changes, because it just doesn't make any sense, because the game is being designed for the majority of people, because those are the people that actually buy things, right, in the game, and a reason why game designers can still do that. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question, but I
find that very fascinating, and I agree in large parts for sure. And I think that's also one of the issues that FIFA had to tackle in the past. Because I mean, in that case, like FIFA 19 was hated by both the community
the problem
and the pro scene.
The problem with FIFA is just, I feel like it's just so much. The loot box culture is like so like prevalent on like YouTube, and big YouTubers are like opening packs and animating kids to do that. So for me, it's a bit of a gray zone. Like it's not illegal, but it's still
it's like maybe unethical.
There's surprise mechanics. Remember?
Yeah, surprise mechanics.
Surprise mechanics, not loot boxes. I'm sorry we used that term.
Yeah, I was at the FIFA 20 event that was like only for press a couple of days ago in Berlin, and they were asked, because like Belgium, for example, just straight up banned it. Like you can't buy packs in Belgium. Great. And then the journalist asked about it and was like, well, we haven't had any negative experiences with our mechanics, and therefore we're not looking into changing it. And I was like, okay, fair enough, interesting. I find it interesting in that regard. When FIFA 19 came out, I played FIFA all my life, and Ultimate Team as well, of course, and I wanted to know how much pro players actually spend on getting a good team right at the start, because that's when it's most crucial, of course. And I studied like 25 players, and it started at like minimum, after 1 month of FIFA 19, minimum 800 euros, maximum like 10,500 euros, and then the median, not the average, was at about 4,000 or 3,400 euros. And that's like, after 1 month, that's what you need to spend in order to reach a competitive level. That's a... Ooh.
Right. You can also like take the same system and compare to like real sports. I think there's entry level for like hockey is really expensive, or golf, or like anything. You have those sports where the entry level to buy equipment in that sense is really expensive, but in the best games and the most free games, you can do everything you want. They're all free to play, right? Yeah,
and like my counter argument to that is, so for starters, we're talking still about real objects that need to be crafted and made out of real materials, whereas, you know, the FIFA code is there. So in theory, EA could just like press a button and give everyone a Lionel Messi, for example.
Yeah, but
that they wouldn't make money. But like the reason why a hockey equipment is so expensive is because it takes crafts and craftsmanship to do it. You can play football if you have a ball and 2 bottles of beer, right? Like in theory. Even like on a higher level, you just find a good grass, get 11 people on, and just play. And then the second thing about it is also just like the amount is way too different, because even I've played golf. Like, yes, a good equipment costs like $200-300, and you can really play with it. Yeah. And then it's like 3,000 plus, and it's like, oof,
just thought scale. It's like, I mean, it's interesting. It's the same for Hearthstone.
Yeah.
If you want to like compete.
Again, different scale, I would say, but
it's like different scale. And for FIFA, I mean, it's obviously like absurd to like entry level. If you like spend thousands of dollars to just play to be competitive, it's like pay to win, basically, what it really is, right? I mean, mobile games are designed to be pay to win. Yeah. They just monetize the small attention span that everyone has on mobile games. Mobile games are not designed to be great games. They're designed to be monetized, right?
Make money, yeah.
Which is kind of sad, but yeah, that's just how it is, and I'm definitely guilty of that too. I spent a lot of money, I think, in some mobile games.
And I spent a lot of money on FIFA. I've stopped now, of course, that I unraveled.
It's like an addiction,
right? It's really is like it goes after addictive tendencies. There's a great video by Jim Sterling on how like game developers looked at studies on like how they can manipulate and get people addicted to spending money.
Yeah, if you look at game design and what actually keeps you engaged and everything, dude, you go like deep into the mind, like psychological level, right?
Yeah.
The thing why League of Legends is such a great game is because the whole build up and the whole reward, like the whole system, like the reward system gets really rewarded when you set up a play, you execute it for like a couple of seconds, and then it gets finished and you come out on top. That's why it's such a great thing, right? So yeah, I think on a psychological level, some of these games like have us really hooked,
So after a last quick little break, let me just ask you one question to round things off. Should we expect player salaries to decrease or increase over the next few years in League of Legends in particular, since we're like still a bit focused on League of Legends?
I don't know where the journey will take us.
Okay.
I have a good idea that's my job right now to know, but I think I didn't really expect franchising to like really inflate, like put in like a lot of money into the system. So it caught me off guard, but I think the top players are definitely going to earn more money for sure because you need them. The biggest problem is that if you start decreasing the salaries, you also run the risk of losing those players to either like people who are willing to pay the price or to the streaming market. So that's why I'm saying like Twitch, for example, like a double lift, let's assume the salaries would like crash down, no one could spend money, everyone go broke. He would still have this Twitch stream by himself, and the financial incentive to actually stream versus competing is like a million times higher than to just stream, right? Which is why there's like a bit of a problem. So it just depends on the viewership and how that develops, right? If teams are willing to spend like a lot of money, I think teams who are like not in the top 3, they need to spend a lot of money because you need to attract talent, and the only way you can attract that talent is by overpaying them. It's just completely normal. It's a free market. Everyone can decide how much they want to pay. And if, for example, like Rogue or Excel and say 2020 or 2021, this is our year, we're going to start spending like a lot of money, and they started like basically like tanking the previous seasons to not spend a lot, then that's fine too. So I can't really tell which team is going to be willing to spend like a lot of money or isn't. It just depends on what the values are and what they really want to do. If their focus is winning, those teams have to like either be incredibly lucky with players, but the skill gap between the really good players and the serviceable players becomes bigger and bigger, so you need to get some star power in it. So it becomes tough, right? So I don't know. Bjergsen's contract is coming up this year, I think. That's what I know. If he's going to leave TSM, I would assume he would be by far the highest paid player in Europe and North America in esports if he decides to leave. So I think that's for sure. His salary would go up no matter what because everyone would want him. But on average, I think we're in a good space right now. That's why I think we're not in an esports bubble. I think we are in a decent space right now. I think players are being treated fairly, and I think they're definitely like the most beneficiary party of the esports ecosystem right now, I think.
So they give the most or they take the most?
Well, they receive the most. Okay, I think they're like the benefactors of like everything, right? So teams definitely see the short end of the stick. Right. But at the end of the year, by the end of the day, I mean, it's pretty obvious that players are like the one that carries your brand forward, and it's basically like marketing, right? It's like players are your marketing tool and your marketing vehicle. What you do on the business side needs to be reflected on the players as well. So yeah, they will always be the front face of the organization. They will always have the most attention. They will always be the one that drives the fans towards your org. But the problem of esports also is that fans are fans of players, right? And they usually swap teams if that happens. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think we're in a good space right now, especially like in Europe. It's definitely a lot better. I think a lot more players are actually making money. We have national leagues, people can live from that. So we have like probably like 250 players that make money from it. The ecosystem is very healthy, so there's no reason for me to believe that it's gonna be going away anytime soon in Europe, because you can do like a lot of marketing stuff on regional level, right? You have German teams that do all the sponsor stuff in Germany. You have the LEC supporting like sponsors like regional and international, whereas in North America you only have like top level and that's it. There's no system that feeds into it, which is why I could see like definitely a decrease over there in the market, because there seems to be not like an infrastructure that supports the second and third layer as much as in Europe.
Right, and it's just going to be, as you predicted before, it's going to be more centralized towards the top teams, and the bottom teams are going to struggle in that regard to also pay the salaries at the end of the day that are still, even a bottom tier player still makes a bit more than he might in a different market scenario.
Yeah, but like you said, I think with Immortals and with Optic, you can be hopeful, because even if let's say you close your esports operations, I think you can still get acquired for the brand. And there's some kind of confidence in the market right now that it's like, even if everything goes wrong, you can still sell it off and kind of,
But who's going to buy it?
Someone is going to buy it, right?
Right, because like if you do have the brand, but who's going to buy a team that has 40,000 followers? Okay.
I mean, I think
so. That's a question that teams need to solve.
They need to solve that, right? If I could solve it for them, I would probably be very wealthy by now. If I could figure out how to make money.
I think I can. Carlos, give me a call.
No, but
he doesn't have the problem.
I think it's definitely what we're seeing, and that's why I mean consolidation period. That some brands are going to be bought out, and if more teams are going to go the Immortals approach, where they have 5-6 different brands, each one for specific games, it could become that maybe like in esports, like Overwatch League, there's one, like Philly Fusion, for example, they have this huge partnership with like SKT now. So maybe they want to invest into like a Counter-Strike team at one point. They see one brand is struggling, they want to sell, they're not doing too hot. It's a better entry into the market than just trying to do everything by yourself, because you buy the history with it, right? So there's some kind of insurance on the downside, I think, that if things go really wrong, you can almost like try to solve it, right?
So that's going to be the future esports team model, is that you're not going to have like G2 all teams under the G2 banner?
It's going to be both models. I think 100 Thieves right now definitely focus on like their one brand, very centralized brand, G2 as well. Fnatic has done that as well. But there's also like going to be like the Immortals approach, where you have 5 different brands that all play into the history of each different game, that all have their own fans. And I think that both models are fairly like they're good. I think it just depends on what you focus on. One requires a lot more effort and focus, but if it works out, there's a lot more upside to it, right?
Which one?
I think the centralized thing is definitely a lot harder to do it across all games. Whereas if you have one team that doesn't perform well, it kind of drags the brand down a bit, right? You can just sell it off then if you don't want it, or you want to exit the esports completely. But there's definitely like some upside to it as well, to have like decentralized brands and then have everything under one holding company.
Right, and it's like if all the teams perform well, which sometimes happens. G2 has had those points as well, and like most of the G2 teams do really, really well. Fnatic has had that team. Team Liquid is literally in that
Team
time
Liquid is doing
right
that,
now. So they can probably like just acquire so much more power from that.
Yeah, because that's also like the thing, right? Money, and once you have that brand status, it gives you clout. Right. That's what it is, right? People want to be associated with the best. So the best teams that are going to be free are going to want to play for the best brands.
And then like if they enter a new space and they go, hey, we're Team Liquid, we're already kicking ass in CSGO, League of Legends, all these esports titles, we want a TFT team, people are going to be more inclined to join that team.
Everyone is going to be more inclined to join the top organizations over like smaller ones. That's just how it is. I mean, I've noticed like everyone wants to join TSM with Fortnite, FaZe with Fortnite as well. Now I would assume it's 100 Thieves because of like their outside pull. In Europe, it's definitely G2 is the number one brand that everyone wants to join. So yeah, it's a lot focused to the top, to like 1 or 2 people. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. Thank you so much for your talk. This was the first episode of the Esports Brain. Is there like any final words you want to mention? Anything you want to plug?
I have nothing to plug anymore. I'm just a third-party individual that is interested in this whole esports thing and trying to make sense of it, right? And hopefully can contribute my part to grow the pie a bit bigger. somehow. I know as an agent I'm not really doing that right now. It's like I'm taking away things, right? Team owners hate me, but no, it's cool. I think it's cool. I think we are in the right direction. I think we just have to be like a lot more careful with how we approach things and look more long term, because everyone is too short term focused. And yeah, that's it.
Just a lonely cowboy riding down
For now.
his horse on the Old Town Road.
I guess I can announce.
Sure.
I'm a free agent, right? That's my free agent announcement. Then, I'm not associated to anyone right now.
Right.
Just left my position like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it's fun. It's like fun employment is for like a while.
Just down the Old Town Road, very beautiful. Maybe you're gonna Naruto run with us to Area 51. My favorite meme of the year so far, by the way.
It's great. I wonder why is no esports org actually like bought into it, right?
Really? Yeah, I'm gonna write a Twitter post right now with the Shotcaller brand, 100%. But Lil Nas literally today released a remix of Old Town Road where he makes Keanu Reeves in comic form Naruto run to Area 51, and they take over Area 51. It's the hottest.
That's the thing. It's like you need to really buy into like these cultural things that just start out of nowhere.
Yeah.
If you capitalize on it well, you can actually ride the wave and you get a lot from it, right?
Yeah.
So esports teams are lazy. Or not creative enough, maybe.
Or both. or not at all. Some of them do both pretty well. I feel like G2 is really good in that regard. But I think we've spoken a lot. Let us know what your thoughts are on the esports industry, the things that Marcel decided to reveal, maybe even to you, or maybe not. Let us know, how did you find this first episode of the Esports Brain, or Picking Your Esports Brain is the name of the show, actually.
Pick Your Esports Brain, yeah.
Brought to you by Brain Effect, of course. Huge thank you to those guys sponsoring our content and enabling us in this podcast studio. This was Darius from the Shotcaller, and again, make sure to follow Marcel Feldkamp on Twitter. And this was it from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd especially like to thank Krzysztof Bujnowicz, Erich Althaus, Lukas Legal, Lazy Raven, and Adam Novosviat for your continuous and very special support, and of course all the people whose names you see scrolling past you right now. We have a lot of amazing projects, and of course Worlds 2019 in Europe coming up, so thank you so much for supporting us and enabling us to do our work. Thank you.